So, welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Krayden. Merry Christmas. We're going to not work through Christmas, but we're going to continue to produce news until New Year's. And I hope you're enjoying this. The Liberals are very upset with Pierre Poilievre, and we're going to come back in a minute and find out why.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.
And if you notice my cat Sasha there ringing the bell, please ring the bell. Tell us you like us. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I understand sometimes you have to resubscribe. If we're one of those shows that, aren't exactly politically correct at times. So if you have to resubscribe, please do so. And if you can help us out in any way you can, we would appreciate it. And you can find out in the description how to do that. But we have got to beat Trudeau's censorship, and we're trying to hit 15,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're almost there. So please, if you can do that to help us out, if you can share this broadcast with a friend, it would really be appreciated. It's been a heck of a good year. Thanks to all of you, by the way, for doing everything you have done. And not only on YouTube, but on Rumble, on X, and so many social platforms, Facebook, where we have tried to get the message out. And it's a real pleasure to be able to be here right before Christmas. But you're going to either feel a lot of anxiety or a lot of hilarity when you watch these clips today. And it's quite funny because what's getting the Liberals upset? Well, Pierre Poilievre is just being Pierre Poilievre. And there's a great year-end interview between the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, the leader of the official opposition, his two titles, interviewed by Rex Murphy. And it's very, very worthwhile. So I've got an extended clip. I want you to hear the whole thing because it's important not only because it's good material, but because it sort of plays into what the Liberals have to say in the clips I'm going to show you later. What is this all about? Well, more about it later. But what it boils down to is that the Liberals don't like Pierre Poilievre telling the truth, not talking in talking points. Trudeau and the Liberals talking nothing but talking points. But Poilievre is actually outlining some very credible, sensible, commonsensical, small c as well as large c conservative positions. I don't always agree with everything Pierre Poilievre says, but I like this interview because he's hitting on areas of interest that everybody in Canada should be listening to. So why don't we watch a bit of this interview? And I'll try to stay out of it as much as possible, but I encourage you just to enjoy this.
I do believe we should reduce emissions. My view, though, is it's by creating an abundance of alternative energy through the rapid yet safe approval of nuclear power. We have we have the biggest supply of uranium in the world. We have the best nuclear engineers because we invented the can-do. We get 50% of our energy from nuclear in Ontario. Why can't we speed up affordable, clean nuclear power here at home? Why can't we allow Quebec to build more hydroelectric dams? Why don't we unleash more energy production and create energy abundance rather than more poverty?
So, very interesting comments here because what Poilievre is doing is linking his energy policy to his environmental policy. So instead of saying we've got to tax people to death, we have to change to electric vehicles that are unsustainable and that are cost prohibitive. He's saying let's find alternate sources of energy to supplement the existing sources that actually are credible, because it's not credible to think solar panels and windmills are going to power a modern economy. That fallacy only exists in the little minds of Justin Trudeau, Stephen Guilbeault, and the other members of the Liberal cabinet who are on the script and drinking the Kool-Aid. Let's hear some more about what Pierre Poilievre has to say.
I have no doubt that he has total disdain for Saskatchewan and Alberta. His father did, surely. His father gave him the finger.
I remember.
I think that, but I think he has a lot of disdain for many people. He attacks parents who object to his gender ideology as hateful. He attacks small businesses as tax cheats. He attacks grandmothers who heat their homes as polluters. He attacks anyone who disagreed with his authoritarian agenda over the last several years as a small fringe minority. And to his credit, he took that back and apologized for it. But I think he meant it. And I think he looks at anyone that is not prepared to cede their money and their freedom to his power, he looks upon with contempt.
Now, precisely. He's talking, of course, about Justin Trudeau, who shows nothing but contempt for people who are his political opponents. He demonizes them. He tries to sideline them to the point of them being not just political opponents, but of being pariahs. And he of course lied publicly at the Emergencies Act inquiry about what he did say about people who opposed mandatory vaccinations, what he did say about Freedom Convoy protesters. He did call them racist and misogynistic, and he lied about that. And he calls people who disagree with his social policies hateful. Let's hear some more of it. This is a very good interview.
Through talks with parents and people who have children in school, I know that schools at that level is not federal, but we're all Canadians. What's going on in the Canadian school system that so many school boards, they present themselves as activists in what we, in some derision, refer to as the woke agenda, sexuality politics, ethnic politics, identity politics. These things have captured the entire attention of the whole school boards who are very radical in pushing even against the arguments to it. I talk, in a sense like you, I have talked to so many parents in schools in Ontario. These are rich schools by any standard. And the parents say, we don't know what to do. If we could take, and this is in Catholic schools, city school, if we could take our children somewhere else, they actually fear sending their kids to school because they don't know the ideologies or the political preferences that are now substituting for classroom instruction. It's a scandal. What do you think of it?
I think the school should get back to teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic, and we should let parents raise kids and transmit their values to children. And when Trudeau stepped in and stuck his nose in the policy decisions of Premier Scott Moe and Premier Higgs to restore parental rights, I told him he should butt out and let provinces run schools and parents raise kids. And that's what I believe. Parents should be able to decide, and parents should have obviously know what's going on in the lives of their kids.
But isn't that, again, one of the little index markers of where we are? The idea that schools and some principals, and certainly some school boards, not almost, with full arrogance saying, that if young children come to us with one specific kind of problem, the sexual confusions that obtain, we think we should be able to keep it to ourselves. Where did they get the gall to say that they're superior to the parents?
Not for me.
I know it's not from you, but they get support from a lot of quarters. And how is that stopped? This is not a made-up thing.
We have to respect parental rights, and I stand for parental rights.
And you have to
because I trust parents to make the right decision for their kids, and I know that parents this is a key area where Justin Trudeau and I just disagree. He believes that he should be able to impose his radical ideology on other people's kids by demanding provinces implement his thinking and calling anyone who disagrees, whether they're Muslim, Jewish, or Christian parents, hateful. And so I think he should butt out and let parents raise kids.
Well, the last question on that, the other thing about the agenda that is in the schools, and I have too much information not to be completely solid on it, is displacing the function of the school. We are to train minds, teach people to write, read, and science, and also some of the social virtues. But identity politics pursued with an intensity, it overwhelms everything else. And if you haven't gone to the right washroom, or if you said the wrong word to the wrong person, suddenly this is it. I don't see a month dedicated to arithmetic, a month dedicated to history, but 10,000 months for LGBT or some other foreign cause.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, I can't promise to fix that one.
No,
I'm running for Prime Minister, so I won't be able to fix educational problems. But I think we need to get back to common sense on all of these things. And on these broader social questions, if I were to create a political party from scratch, it would be called the Mind Your Own Damn Business Party. People can make the decisions of who they marry, who they date, how they live their lives, but also how they raise their kids. And I think if we had governments at all levels that live and let live, that had a policy of live and let live, a true policy of live and let live, which ironically is what liberals used to say 25 years ago, then we would have so much more social peace because people could make their own decisions and come to their own conclusions and raise their own families with their own values. And I think by and large, parents are human, they'll obviously make mistakes, but by and large, at the end of the day, parents and people will make the right decisions for their own lives and their own families. And that's why my role as a Prime Minister is not going to be to impose my values on other people. It's to get out of their faces and run a competent government. They want a government that can deliver a passport, not a government that runs their lives.
The Mind Your Own Business Party. What a gem of common sense. And that is, of course, exactly what is bothering the Liberals, because he's not reading off vacuous talking points. He's saying, let people decide. Let parents decide. And for God's sake, it's a parent's right to know what their child is being exposed to in school, no matter what the curriculum is, but especially if that curriculum is that children don't have to tell their parents about changing their gender or being potentially sexually mutilated. And Poilievre is saying parents have a right to know. And he's also saying, what is the state doing legislating these kind of issues? Because all Poilievre is saying is what Thomas Jefferson, that great American statesman, president, author, when he said that government is best which governs least, because it's time that people with common sense ideas, small c conservatives, small c liberals, small l liberals, small l libertarians, all agree on this. We need to get the state out of our lives. We need to get the state out of making decisions about our families, about our personal lives, and get them doing what they should be doing. Now, Poilievre mentions getting a passport to you, but that's part of the same thing, making sure we have a functioning military, that we have courts and a justice system and police. That's where you want the state involved. You don't want the state making personal decisions about your schooling and about ideology, and extremist ideology at that. So this is great. So I showed you this first to lead up to the Liberal reaction. which is incredible. Literally, it is incredible. It's hard to believe Liberals are this stupid because they say, oh, Poilievre said nothing at all. Well, actually, he's saying a lot. It's the Liberals, it's you Liberals who say nothing, who talk in vacuous talking points. And this is demonstrated in this clip. Now, and we're going to play it all because it's absolutely fascinating. I'll try not to interrupt too much. I'll interrupt a couple of times. But it's fascinating what the Liberals are upset about. And they called a news conference with two of their second or third tier MPs, second tier, to express their outrage that Pierre Poilievre is talking common sense matters and he's telling the truth and he's talking about how he believes. Because the Liberals, all they can talk about is fighting climate change, LGBTQ month, and how we have to keep giving billions of dollars to Ukraine. Those are their favorite issues. That's all they can talk about. And oh yeah, they're always there for Canadians, which is absolute BS. And you and I know that. But let's listen to some of this. So here's a news conference held. The reporters had no idea what in hell they were there for. And as soon as they found out there was no reason to be there, they give it back to the Liberals pretty well. Let's watch this.
Everyone, Mr. McKinnon and I are here today to discuss what we think is a very serious issue. This is a response to what we've been seeing coming out of Mr. Poilievre in the last few days. Mr. Poilievre has had an opportunity now with at least 3 different news organizations, friendly news organizations, I would add, to lay out his plan, what his plans are, what he plans to do moving forward, and we have yet to see anything substantive. He's had long-form interviews with some very friendly news organizations, and we're not seeing anything come from him. Instead, what we're seeing from Mr. Poilievre is a throwback to 25 years ago, pining over having a political party. I think he phrased it the mind your own damn business political party.
C'est quoi le contraste le plus payant pour vous ou les contrastes les plus payants de la prochaine?
Moi, je pense que lorsque les Canadiens vont regarder, bon, dans ma vie quotidienne. We've seen in the last few days as Mr. Poilievre choose some very comfy, fuzzy little interview spaces where he can spew his right-wing stuff.
That looked like a comfy, fuzzy interview space. I thought they were sitting in the basement someplace. But of course, it has got nothing to do with the surroundings. It's got everything to do with what Poilievre is saying and the questions he's being asked. And the Liberals are upset that he wasn't actually facing reporters who wanted his head. He was facing reporters who had real questions for him, and these guys are crazy.
Without really having any kind of aggressive questioning, we have not heard Mr. Poilievre be questioned on policy, on specifics, on how possibly, having spoken about housing for all these months, how he could possibly arrive with a plan that is less ambitious than ours, which does not project new housing starts like ours does, which does not act transparently in terms of the interest of communities and of Canadians. How he can get away with not talking about specifics on climate change. How he can talk about axing one of what is the world's most effective carbon limiting mechanisms, which is a price on pollution, and how he could...
Price on pollution? Sorry, nobody's buying that anymore. It's a punitive tax on ordinary Canadians who have to drive their cars and heat their homes. And these people have the nerve to drag out their talking points. Wait till you hear what they accuse Poilievre of.
Get away with withdrawing climate incentive checks from Canadians that Canadians benefit from. So all of that being said, we are not going to sit here and listen to Mr. Poilievre's reductive talk without it being responded to, and make sure that Canadians are drawn, that we draw their attention to not only what he's saying, but what he is not saying. And what he is not saying is anything about a specific plan to move Canada forward.
You can't handle the truth. interviews. I mean, how far back on your heels are you that you feel the need to do that? We haven't seen the Conservatives respond to any of the Prime Ministers.
What it says is that we have confidently, for 4 months in this House, put forward plans, specific plans, detailed plans on everything that I just talked about.
And yet he's getting under your skin.
And Mr. Poilievre arrives with these tropes and these slogans and doesn't manage to get questioned at all aggressively about his specific plans to improve the lives of Canadians.
Actually, that's a complete fabrication. Those weren't tropes. He was telling, how do you improve the lives of Canadians? Get the hell out of their lives, unlike you Liberals who want to regulate everything, who want to control everything. You become a bunch of authoritarian fascists. That's all you're up to.
Issue here that he did some friendly interviews?
Mr.
I'm just confused as to why we're here and why we're listening and doing this.
Mr. Poilievre has spent giving these fuzzy, comfy little interviews in safe spaces for him. That's all very nice for him.
But to Louis' point, are you sort of trying to unroll a new strategy in that the Liberals are trying something new or trying to fight back more against Poilievre? Like,
Listen.
Explain the thing.
So the reporters are on to them. They get it. What is this all about? You don't like the fact that Pierre Poilievre can actually have an interview where he's not being eviscerated by reporters. He can actually just talk about his policies. That's exactly what he did. And the reporters are saying, what's going on? Is this an election call? You don't like the leader of the official opposition to be able to conduct interviews. You have a problem with that. So the media, ironically, this is the same media that Trudeau is trying to buy off with subsidies, is on to the Liberals and saying, we're not buying any of this.
Thinking behind this.
Listen, first and foremost, we're going to keep delivering for Canadians. That's what we've done. That's what we've demonstrated that we're going to continue to do. But
okay, did you catch that? This is the idiot who says that it's Pierre Poilievre who uses talking points. This is the idiot who says that there's no policy coming from Pierre Poilievre. But he just said, what? The Liberals are going to continue to deliver for Canadians? Deliver what? All you're delivering is censorship, authoritarianism, euthanasia, more taxes, higher inflation, more mortgage, higher mortgage rates. That's what you're delivering for Canadians. So that's why you talk in deliberately vacuous and unintelligible terms, because that's what you're delivering. So don't pretend it's something positive.
it's also important for us to highlight and show Canadians what the alternative is, quite frankly. And we've given Mr. Poilievre now, or he's had 3 opportunities to lay out in the most friendliest forms possible over a 45-minute to an hour-long period what he will do. And the reality is that he's not saying much. He's just a lot of the same repeated talking points. It's time for Mr. Poilievre to start saying what he will do about the environment, how he will...
You can't handle the truth!
Attacking a plan that, quite frankly, is accepted throughout the world. It's time for Mr. Poilievre to start talking about what his plans actually are. We're not seeing any of that from him, and so we're here today to say, listen, we will we will continue to work hard for Canadians, but at the same time, we're going to continue to point out where Mr. Poilievre continues to misinform Canadians on what his plans are, because we know at the end of the day, Mr. Poilievre's approach is exactly like Donald Trump's approach from the United States. It's all about feeding in and feeding off of the emotions of people to try to get the better of them.
Oh, I get it. This is about misinformation, which the Liberal government is going to try to outlaw in the next bill, the online safety bill. Yes, it's about outlawing misinformation. So can we outlaw the official opposition? Can we say that Pierre Poilievre has to be silenced and censored because anything he says is misinformation because this idiot, Mark Gerritsen, doesn't agree with it? Do you want speech regulated by morons like this who can't even put a sentence together that makes any sense at all? Do you want them defining what misinformation is? And do you want them making outrageous claims that if you disagree with the Trudeau government, somehow you're part of the Make America Great movement and a supporter of Donald Trump? I mean, what does one have to do with the other?
One of our jobs is going to be to point that out, and that's exactly what we're doing here today.
But isn't this what an election campaign is for? Like, pardon me, and we're not in a campaign. That's typically when a leader will put out a platform. That's when they detail their policy.
I mean, you would have to ask yourself, isn't the way that Mr. Poilievre acts now and has always been acting what an election
platform? He revealed his platform in 2013. He revealed it in the 2015 election campaign.
Pardon me?
Justin Trudeau became leader in 2013.
Yes.
He didn't reveal a platform then. He revealed it in the election campaign.
But we were certainly talking about our values and what was important to us.
That's not quite true either.
And we paved the way for that election platform well in advance. But listen, it's about talking about what we stand for. Mr. Poilievre, if you actually listen to what he says, stands for nothing other than to try to take down the current Prime Minister. And all we're saying is, if you actually stop and listen, as we did, we listened to the 45-minute-long interviews, you actually end up hearing nothing. And, we find that concerning. We think that Canadians would find that concerning.
C'est quoi le contraste le plus payant pour vous, ou les contrastes les plus payants de la prochaine?
Moi, je pense que lorsque les Canadiens vont regarder, dans ma
Conservative Party of Canada. This is a party that used to support Ukraine. It's now a party that won't even vote in favor of a free trade agreement with Ukraine, won't vote to support elements of Operation Unifier that directly supports Ukraine. Has something changed? Absolutely. The Conservative Party of Canada has changed. It's changed dramatically just in the actions that we've seen in the last 4 months. This is why Mr. McKinnon and I think it's so important to keep, to make sure that Canadians are informed, to make sure that they have all of this information, because it's absolutely critical. It's about a new Conservative Party of Canada. It's about a Conservative Party of Canada that is more based like the MAGA alt-right Republicans that we see in the United States, like Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene. That seems to be who they're heavily influenced by now.
You can't handle the truth.
Are supporting.
No, what I'm saying is that Mr. Poilievre is trying to give you the impression that he's something that, quite frankly, he's not. Because when you actually listen to what they say in the House, when you see how they actually vote, you start to realize that, they are not the Conservative Party of Brian Mulroney. Brian Mulroney's Conservative Party dealt with acid rain. They dealt with fixing the ozone layer. Literally led the world. Literally led the world in that. They literally led the world in that regard. And now what you see is a Conservative Party of Canada where they can't even get half their membership to agree that climate change is real.
Well, why do you think their message is resonating?
Last question. Why do I think their message is resonating? Well, I think that their message is resonating because of what I said earlier. Mr. Poilievre is playing off people's emotions, he's playing off people's fears, and he's trying to translate that into telling people that he will actually be there for them. But if you listen to what he's saying, which is the entire point of us coming to talk to you today, if you actually listen to what he said in these interviews leading up to today, he's said nothing about what he will actually do for people. He's only continued to reinforce and play into people's emotions, to play into people's fears in order to try to scare them away from something else. Thank you.
Le contraste le plus payant pour vous, ou les contrastes les plus payants de la prochaine?
Okay. So what did we learn from these imbeciles? That they're scared. Very scared. Because Poilievre is talking about policies, and those aren't the policies the Liberals want you to have. The Liberals want to continue to enforce their ideology and force you to do what they want. They did it throughout the pandemic, and now they're doing it with every conceivable policy, from censorship to outlawing gas engines, gas-powered engines. So they think authoritarianism in this country has been normalized, and we better just sit back and enjoy it. But Poilievre's saying no. Let's get the government out of your life. Let's take the fetters off. And these people don't want to hear that. And it scares them. So what do? They reach for smears again. I don't even consider it a smear. But the Liberals think, oh, if we accuse the Poilievre people of being MAGA or U.S. style, that's going to frighten Canadians. And that's all they can do. Is it really just American or U.S. style to say that we should have personal freedom and liberty and that the government shouldn't be dictating how we live our lives and regulating every economic transaction? What's U.S. style about that? That used to be Canadian style. And I think that's what Pierre Poilievre is reintroducing to the political debate. And these idiots want to harken back to Brian Mulroney like he was the panacea of Canadian leadership. The only reason they like Mulroney is that he can't stop praising Justin Trudeau. Because Mulroney was never a conservative. He was a progressive. So that's what's going on here. And if the Liberals have to start talking about the ozone layer and acid rain, and God, we wish we had Brian Mulroney back, it shows you how bankrupt that party has become. And when they put out two non-entities like this at a news conference to try to explain what their Liberal Party stands for, and they can't even enunciate a policy position except to say Ukraine and climate change and everything we say in question period every day, it shows you that they really have nothing to offer Canadians anymore. And that's so clear. And even the bought-off media that gets subsidized by the Trudeau government has had enough. And they're calling their bluff and saying, you didn't have anything to tell us at this news conference. Poilievre has a right to be interviewed and to talk about his positions. There's no election on. What do you expect? Why don't you people start articulating positions that make sense? So I'm proud to see the national media at least fighting back because I think they're sick of this charade. They're sick of this perversion of free speech, this perversion of a free press. And they're saying enough. And it's refreshing to see. By the way, I wanted to thank, if you've noticed those comical memes, I want to thank Red Pill North for that. Very funny. Thank you very much. I don't often do that, but it was worth it today. So that shows you how desperate the Liberal Party is. And of course, we'll be continuing to watch what these people are up to over the Christmas season. They've taken 6 weeks off. We won't see a question period until February. And what do you think Justin Trudeau is going to do this Christmas break? Where do you think he'll vacation? Will he go back to the Aga Khan Island? Maybe not. There's a bit of a ethics problem with that one, wasn't there? Will he go to a luxury resort in the Caribbean or perhaps Costa Rica or goodness knows? Anywhere where he feels welcome, which really isn't Canada anymore, because I don't think he'll be spending much time here. All we can hope and pray is that his time as Prime Minister is very limited, because the longer he stays in power, the less likely it is that we're facing economic and social catastrophe, because that's what this man is best at positing, at producing. That's what it means to deliver for Canadians if you're a Liberal government. That's how they deliver for Canadians. It's a nice talking point, and they love to talk about, oh, they're working hard for you, but they're working very hard for themselves, aren't they? And that's really what liberalism with a capital L stands for today. Looking after yourself. And that's what the Liberal government does best. And that's what Justin Trudeau and these two, my God, Garretson and McKinnon, I have never seen worse representatives of any government anywhere. That was a pathetic news conference. And the media recognized it, and I'm sure you did too, because they had nothing to say except that we don't like Pierre Poilievre. And we don't like the fact there's an opposition party that's poised to become the next government, because we think the Liberal Party should stay in government forever because we're entitled to do that. And that's the message you got from these two in this news conference. So once again, thanks for watching. I'm your host, David Krayden, and we will continue to report. I did a great interview today with a guy who was head of the National Citizens Inquiry that was looking into what went on during the COVID-19 pandemic and how the government of Canada handled that issue. So that will be up probably tomorrow. I encourage you to watch that too. You might have to navigate over to Rumble to see the entire episode, but I think it'll be worth your while. So once again, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. Thank you for supporting this station in the ways you have. And let's hit that 15,000 by Christmas or